What up, chat? We are live and alive. Got a little bit of music on.
At an increased risk of mental health problems compared to women who carry an unintended pregnancy to term. These conclusions are based on a thorough review of the literature and inclusion of studies that have very high design quality and are not biased towards finding abortions abortion leads to mental health. Okay. Several recent reviews of studies have been published. 1 through 4. Okay. Despite these independent reviews all having similar conclusions, one recent review by Coleman came to a different conclusion. A meta-analysis concluded that abortion increases women's risk of mental health problems by 81%, and that 10% of mental health problems are attributable to abortions. Remember, one of your leading indicators that some research is bullshit is if you come out and you claim in your research to have found something that is not only different from what a lot of other researchers are saying, but significantly different. 81% increase. That sounds like a big relative risk adjustment, but the methods, results, and conclusions of this meta-analysis have been seriously questioned by several researchers and scholars. 10 letters to the editor were highly critical of the methodology used, and with 2 calling for a retraction of this meta-analysis. In addition, the final version of a review by the Royal College of Psychiatrists stated that a number of methodological problems with the meta-analysis conducted in the Coleman Review have been identified, which brings into question both the results and conclusions, and a commentary published in January 2012, written by authors of the Royal College of Psychiatrists Review, concluded that the Coleman meta-analysis cannot be regarded as a formal systematic review. Like others, we strongly question the quality of this meta-analysis of 22 papers, just as the reliability, validity, and replicability of some of the studies in the meta-analysis have been questioned.
And then we'll start the rank grind. My phone. We're gonna warm up with one arena.
While many have discussed the errors and shortcomings in separate critiques of the Coleman meta-analysis, none has presented a comprehensive summary of them in one paper. Below, we present a summary of the most serious and significant errors of this meta-analysis. Policy, practice, and the public have been badly misinformed. We then briefly discussed significant shortcomings of various studies included in the meta-analysis. In addition, because of the RC Psych review was published around the same time, came to different conclusions than Coleman's meta-analysis. Where appropriate, we discussed how aspects of the Coleman meta-analysis and RC Psych review differed. We also present tables 1 and 2 to illustrate the errors of the meta-analysis. Okay, Jesus. Okay. Let's make sure real quick, this guy's not like, or girl, she's not like the head of the Kill Babies organization or something like that. Is a professor of ecological economics at the University of Lausanne. She studies the relationships between the use of resources and performances of societies. She's an author of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, 6 to 7 report. Oh my god, okay, we get it. We get it. Whatever. Jesus. Wait, is this the right person? Jesus. Daughter of Nobel laureate in physics Jack Steinberg, studied science at the Collège des Chercheurs in Switzerland, where she was awarded the Des Saussure Prize in 1993. Moved to the US for a graduate degree working at Brown University on the cosmic microwave background. Earned her PhD studying ultra-cold atoms at MIT. Jesus. Oh no, supports the work of Greta Thunberg. Or Thunberg. Not good. Is this really the same researcher? She's the lead on this Department of Psychiatry, University of Chicago, or I'm sorry, California. Julia R. Wait, I don't think this is the same person. Steinberger? Oh, this is Steinberger. We're looking for Steinberg. Ah, now we found you. Okay. Research is at the intersection of mental and reproductive health and social focus on family planning. One line of research is an important policy and clinical application examines whether abortion causes or increase the risk of mental health problems. Another line of research examines the role of mental health in unintended pregnancies. Okay, so this is her area of research.
The crowd craves competition and carnage reckoners. Will you earn their favor or
Okay, so we were just saying that this is...
Is that your method or madness?
Big review. This is... I did not copy this thing. I'm just...
Spoils of war, now yours to wield.
Big 2013 review.
Another contender arises.
Someone philosophy people? I don't know. Big 2013 review. Acceptance of common errors, fire, studies, fire, associate abortion with negative mental health outcomes. Okay.
Chase to your heart's content. One realm to another.
Oh, that's good enough.
Now, take it in. Between worlds.
Round over. You lost.
Right. Abortion perils debate. Somebody link this. This is so short. The study by David Reardon Associates is seriously flawed. It presents misleading conclusions. The outcomes for two groups of women is that the only differences between them is whether or not they had an abortion. However, many factors are unknown. For example, the women's control group were unstable relationships whether they had planned pregnancies. The women in the case group had not had a psychiatric admission in the previous year. The reasons for their abortion are unknown. The These women may have been troubled before they got pregnant. Women who are mentally ill, under stress, and without social support constitute the most likely to need an abortion because they cannot cope with pregnancy or having a child. But these women will also have the most ability to cope with abortion. The fact that the most common diagnosis for those admitted after their abortions was psychotic depression strongly suggests that some of these women had a previous history of mental illness. Reardon and Associates bolster their alarmist conclusions by quoting a select group of studies that have supposedly also found major negative consequences, ignoring the thorough reviews by both the APA and the Surgeon General of the United States, who found no evidence of harm. It is surprising that CMAJ would publish such poor quality research. Damn. Oh. Okay. I might look at one more study real quick before. Okay, so California Medicaid study examining 107. Yeah, she's very tricky with the way that she brings this up, by the way, which is very interesting. Because when somebody says the California Medicaid study, it almost sounds like a government was commissioned to take a look at the data, which is not at all the case, right? It was a super pro-abortion guy with a fake PhD, who, like, that's, yeah.
Magical intervention. Team Sentinel, wander round! Thought I'd lighten the mood a little.
She mentions this Turnaway study.
So I return. Yet another mystery.
Introduction to the Turnaway study. Is this the Turnaway study, or is this a paper talking about the Turnaway study? The Turnaway study is ANSIRH. What is that? Advancing New Standards in Reproductive Health. Okay. It was a study to describe the mental health, physical health, and socioeconomic consequences of receiving an abortion compared to carrying an unwanted pregnancy term. 2008-2010, we recruited women from 30 abortion facilities around the country. We interviewed nearly 1,000 women who sought abortions. Some received abortions because they presented with care under the gestational limit at the clinic, and some were turned away and carried to term because they were past the facility's gestational limit. We interviewed participants by phone every 6 months over a period of 5 years. We conducted nearly 8,000 interviews at a study. During surveys, women showed this complex and diverse stories about the effect of their unintended pregnancies on their lives. The Turnaway study is an effort to capture women's stories, understand the role of abortion and childbearing in their lives, and contribute scientific data to the ongoing public policy debate on the mental health and life course consequences of abortion and unwanted childbearing for women and families. The most common reasons for seeking an abortion are not being able to afford to have a child, the pregnancy coming at the wrong time in life, and men involved not being a suitable partner/parent. Alcohol, tobacco, and drug use is an uncommon reason, but women who cite this reason do not have otherwise unwanted pregnancies. Okay. Who seeks later abortion and is denied because they are beyond gestational limits. We estimate that even before most 20-week bans were implemented, more than 4,000 women per year were denied wanted abortions due to gestational limits. Women who seek later abortions are often slowed down by not realizing they were pregnant, followed by logistical barriers to getting a later procedure. Young women and women who've never had a child before are at higher risk of not recognizing pregnancy in the first trimester. Recruited women from 30 facilities over 3 years. Favor low service strategies we use to increase the number of women who are approached and the participation rate. Following papers describe counseling that occurs in abortion clinics shows that most women don't feel pressured and that they find counseling less helpful when it is state mandated. Many women choose to view their ultrasounds, and their emotional responses to viewing are not all negative, and some are even positive. Many women choose to view their ultrasounds, and their emotional responses to viewing are not all negative, some are positive. About half of women report seeing protesters at the clinics. Half, damn. The more contact, the more upsetting the protesters are, but protesters don't change how women feel about their abortions. There's a substantial burden women face trying to raise money to pay for an abortion. Many women who did not have access to public or private insurance coverage were delayed due to raising money for the abortion. The Turnaway study examined the effects of receiving or being denied abortion on women's mental health, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, suicidal ideation, and well-being. You find no evidence that abortion causes negative mental health or well-being outcomes. However, we do find that being denied an abortion is associated with elevated levels of anxiety, stress, and lower self-esteem soon after abortion denial. Over time, these outcomes generally improve, so that by 6 months to 1 year post-abortion seeking, women who have an abortion and those denied one have similar levels of mental health and well-being. Received abortion stigma at the time of seeking an abortion is also associated with negative psychological outcomes years later. Wait, who cited the Turnaway study? Oh, I think this was a I think this might have just been like a fact check.
Hey.
Shut up!
To rival any reckoning.
Jubilee, Leela Rose.
I
I don't know if anybody actually mentioned it by name. Let's check.
Enough idling. Brockman awaits.
To me too. Okay, so do you know the number one emotion women get after having an abortion is relief?
Are you referring to the Turnaway study with that
Yes,
information?
I am.
Okay. So the Turnaway study has been heavily debunked because it's done by those that support abortion, and they said they were going to follow 1,000 women to see if there was an abortion regret after their abortions. Only 150 women would complete the study with them. The rest of them dropped off, some of them struggling with issues maybe connected to that abortion, but only 150 completed it. So that's a
Who debunked this Turnaway research? Does someone link me like a debunking? I guess I could maybe control F it. Alright, this order's been retracted, bruh! The Turnaway study, a case of self-correction in science upended by political motivation and unvetted findings. Oh, it's Coleman again. This review begins with a detailed focus on the Turnaway study, which addresses associations among early abortion, later abortions, and abortions of births. The Turnaway study was comprised of 516 women. However, an exact percentage of the population is not discernible due to missing information. Extrapolating from what is known reveals a likely low of 0.32% to a maximum of 3.18% of participants sampled from the available in the pool. Of what? Of every woman? What? How do I make this? Motivation for conducting the Turnaway study, methodological deficiencies, sampling issues on others, and bias are specifically addressed. Despite serious progress from accepted scientific practices, journals in psychology and medicine have published dozens of articles generated from the study's data. The high volume of one-sided publications has stifled dialogue on potential adverse psychological consequences of this common procedure. Following a critical analysis of the Turnaway study, an overview of the strongest studies on abortion and mental health is offered. This comprehensive literature, comprised of numerous large-scale studies from across the globe, has been largely overlooked by scientists and the public. While the Turnaway study dominates the media, information provided to women and legal challenges involving abortion restrictions. The final section of this article, literature reviews by professional organizations, are considered, demonstrating that the biased section, or the biased science characterizing the Turnaway study, is aligned with a pervasive and systemic phenomenon wherein deriving reliable and valid results via careful selection, careful attention to methodology and scrutiny by the scientific community have been supplanted by politics. Oh no! Wonder why they retracted this. Following publication, undisclosed competing interests were brought to our attention, which undermined the objective editorial assessment of the article during the peer review process. Frontier has conducted a post-publication assessment of the article, including consulting with independent expertise, which concluded the article does not meet the standards of publication of Frontiers in Psychology. This retraction was approved by the chief. The authors did not agree with this retraction, obviously. Turnaway study explored the response of women, including minors, who obtained or were denied abortions around the gestational limit of clinics throughout the United States. The authors also included women who had first tried to register abortions for comparison purposes. More specifically, the authors recruited participants with 3 distinct profiles. 1, women whose pregnancies were dated between 1 day and 3 weeks after clinic gestational limits and were therefore unable to secure an abortion. 2, women whose pregnancies were between 1 day to 2 weeks shy of the clinic gestational limit had an abortion. Most of the participants in the Turnaway group, 60% gave birth. 32% had abortions at another location, had a miscarriage or stillbirth. The investigators checked for eligibility and then in January 2022, Kaiser Health News interviewed Turnaway Study Principal Investigator Foster reporting data from the Turnaway Study resulted in the publication of more than 50 peer-reviewed studies. And the answer to nearly all the questions asked, said Foster, is that the women who got abortions fared better in respect to economic and health, including their mental health, compared with those who did not have abortions. In an article in the December 2021 issue of Scientific American, a sociology professor, Amanda Stevenson, was quoted as saying, "It's impossible to overstate how scholarly the design of the study is." Ooh. The purpose of this review is to step back from the far-reaching and laudatory comments in major media and popular press that have described the study as debunking most anti-abortion arguments, proving restricting abortion harms women, and as a landmark to examine what can be gleaned from the study's inception to efforts to answer the question replete with political ramifications. Does abortion place women at risk for mental health problems? Okay. Following a detailed analysis of the Turnaway study, an overview of the strongest studies available worldwide related to abortion and mental health is provided. This comprehensive literature has been largely ignored as the Turnaway study dominates the media, information provided to women, and legal challenges involving abortion restrictions. In the final section of this article, literature reviews by professional organizations are addressed to illustrate that the biased science characterizing the Turnaway study is aligned with a pervasive and systemic phenomenon wherein scientific principles have been held captive by a political agenda that has no room for vetting knowledge and skeptical scientists. The Turnaway study origins, basics, and methodological flaws. In 2016, Martin observed that Warren Buffett had provided a minimum of $80 million to the University of California, San Francisco Reproductive Health Institute, with the fund supporting researchers with outspoken political agendas. The research initiatives dates back at least to the early 2000s. It became more. Wow. Okay. The analysis below of the sampling procedures and other methodological problems clearly demonstrate that the Turnaway study cannot yield reliable data, precluding generalizability to women seeking U.S. abortions. An affidavit of the Supreme Court. Turnaway study investigators do not clearly articulate the sampling plan, the size of the population, or precisely how sites situated in different cities were chosen. Only very generalized information on these issues is described in the operating procedure manual, and the cities are not identified. When one of the study's published articles, Biggs et al. Noted, from 2008 to 2010, we recruited women seeking abortions care at 30 facilities in 21 states throughout the USA. Facilities are identified using the National Abortion Federation membership directory and by referral. Sites were selected based on their gestational age limits to perform an abortion procedure, where each facility had the latest gestational limit and any facility within 100 miles. In this description, there's no way of knowing if all the selected facilities engaged in recruitment during the first year and continued efforts for the full 3 years. Recruiting, okay. Facilities engaged in recruitment during the first year, okay.
I deserve everything I can. Stop! Crossing over.
The editors and all 4 peer reviewers were part of an anti-abortion advocacy group and not disclosing. Is that really what happened? If so, based? A significant percentage of patients' abortion initiates feelings of regret, loss, and alienation from others. Oh no. was our most recent one. Kim Fort et al. What is the... Am I retarded for not seeing? Oh, Kim Fort. This one? Misunderstanding abortion research. Okay. The abstract of this. The debate about abortion regret rests on competing assumptions about women's attachment to pregnancy. Anti-abortion claimants argue women always attached to pregnancy, inevitably regretting abortion, while abortion rights supporters counter that women do not attach to pregnancies they choose to terminate, feeling relief instead. Neither assumption explains women's experience. Research shows that attachment is discursively produced. What does discursively mean? Means to move from one topic to another in a rambling or digressive way, or to proceed by reasoning and argument rather than intuition. Neither assumption explains experience. Research shows that attachment is discursively produced, so they reason their way to it. Using interview data from 21 women, this study moves past these political claims and empirically identifies research of women's emotional difficulty around abortion, social disapproval, romantic relationship loss, and head versus heart conflict. Findings point to the importance of attention to women's lived experience in space for complex feelings around abortion. Interview data from 21 women. Okay. Alright, those don't necessarily make it bad, but...
Team Sentinel won the round. Team Grump has been eliminated.
21 women who had emotional difficulties related to abortion participated in semi-structured in-depth interviews in 2009. Of these, 14 women were recruited. Jesus, okay, these are very limited sample size things, okay. Research can elucidate some. Wait, 21 women who had emotional difficulties related to an abortion participated in semi-structured in-depth telephone interviews. Well, I mean, okay. I mean, well, they're literally choosing for women that are having negative emotional outcomes, right? For a significant percentage of patients, abortion initiates feelings of regret, loss, and alienation from others. I don't think these two would necessarily support that conclusion. These are super limited, and they're choosing for people that... okay, whatever. Why was this retracted? Stop. Close. Retracted anti-abortion paper contained undisclosed conflicts of interest. An anti-abortion paper retracted by a Frontiers journal the day after Christmas contained undisclosed conflicts of interest among its guest editors and peer reviewers, according to an analysis by digital science company Rapida. Technology company dedicated to supporting building trusted scientists today shared some of its findings, including a conceptual model demonstrating how independent peer review should look at what the conflicts of interest are in this case. The paper in question, published last year in Frontiers in Psychology, is the Turnaway Study, a case of self-correction in science upended by political motivation and unvetted findings. This paper sought to criticize the Turnaway Study, a landmark study describing the mental health, physical health, and socioeconomic consequences of receiving an abortion compared to carrying an unwanted pregnancy to term. This sounds like a study I should become familiar with. The Turnaway Study sounds like a pretty important landmark study for abortion stuffs.
Spoils of war, now yours to wield.
Paper sought to criticize Turnaway Study, a landmark study. Coleman's paper was retracted by Frontiers on December 26, 2022. It's reported in Retraction Watch. PETA CEO and co-founder Dr. Leslie McIntosh says Coleman's article first came to the company's attention last year through algorithms that showed irregularities in the paper's trust markers, and then through social media. The alert we received indicated we should look closer at the trust markers within the article to ensure due diligence of scientific process was followed. Dr. McIntosh says the peer review process is of clear interest in research conduct and integrity. Because Frontiers published the names of reviewers and their declared affiliations, this transparency allows researchers like us to review their affiliations in the context of the peer review process. Coleman's article was part of a research topic similar to a special issue, which was led by 3 guest editors. The article itself had 4 peer reviewers. However, while all 4 peer reviewers state different affiliations, Rapida has found that 3 of them are directly and 1 indirectly affiliated with the anti-abortion Charlotte Lozier Institute, which describes itself as the preeminent organization for science-based pro-life information and research. In addition, the editor charged with reviewing the article is also affiliated with CLI. Most of the associations were not disclosed. Ooh, that's not good. This example highlights the potential for institutes, peer reviewers, or authors to translate aligned political interests into scientific influence. Okay, that's a good... Are there any other big debunks besides this one, or is this the one that she's referring to? I'm curious.
Survey of only 150 women would complete the study with them. The rest of them dropped off, some of them struggling with issues maybe connected to that abortion, but only 100...
Wait, somebody said there's a reason why conflict of interest is a basis for desk rejection. You cannot trust the data wasn't manufactured out of thin air to support claims. Maybe, however, conflict of interest will not necessarily get your study rejected. It's good for disclosing for people to know what's going on, right? So that they can look into, you know, what your conflict of interest is. Not disclosing conflict of interest is a huge red flag, and my guess is that will generally get you completely kicked out, because now it looks like the conflict of interest is so intrusionary, that's not a real word, but it's intruding so much on your ability to reason independently, you know it is, that your refusal to disclose that conflict of interest might be, or is intentionally hampering your ability to it's intentionally hampering your ability to be nonpartisan. Sure, but there's a difference between a minor conflict of interest and something like here. I agree with that. Having 4 people that are associated with the anti-abortion thing doing a review on an article about abortion is probably not it's probably not what you want, right? Not different by baseline physical health, mental health, or economic well-being. This is good to know of a baby. Well, there might be a bunch of other stuff that we're missing, right? So this Turnaway study is clever, and that what it's looking at is, let's say that I have 100 women, let's say 50 gave birth and 50 had an abortion. Who's to say whether or not the aborted babies or the delivered babies are producing better or worse outcomes for the parents, right? Well, what if we take 100 women that all went into an abortion clinic, and 50 of them were turned away because they were a little bit over the gestational limit, and then 50 of them were allowed to have abortions? Well, now we have a much more similar group of people, because initially all 100 were seeking abortions, and now we're in a much more, I think, like similar category here than just including a bunch of random people, right? So this it's boring, and it doesn't always show up necessarily like in the abstract of studies or whatever, but sometimes when you go into like the methodology of some of the studies, that's where you actually get some of the more interesting materials. Like, oh, here's like a really simple confound that everybody would think of, and here's how the researchers like corrected for it. I understand now, I guess, why it's called the Turnaway studies, because this was the idea that they had to try to find a more similar group of women, and then measure the outcomes to see if the abortions were actually having deleterious impacts on their mental health, right? The ways in which their lives diverge are therefore directly attributable to whether or not they got the abortion. We find large negative economic and health consequences for people who are denied wanted abortions, and experience that it's going to be more common now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned and many states have banned abortion. Okay, that's cute. And then
Fine. I don't need more enemies.
Turnaway study. Fuck a fucking book on it. Who was the Diana Foster is the author of this book. Is she the lead researcher of the study? I should just wiki it. That's what I should do.
Shatter their expectations.
It is Diana Foster. Okay. What was the response that I was just reading? I closed it. I fucked Control T. Oh, it was this. Sorry. Okay. Got it. It's involved in a response to Holman's review. Coleman's review was retracted. Jesus. Okay. Okay, cute. All right. One problem with studies using this design is that the causal effect identified is purely local. The absence of the causal effect can only be confidently applied to women seeking abortions around the gestational limit, not, for example, women seeking abortions earlier.
There's no telling what fate has in store for us.
Well, they addressed it. The issue is that people who were, I think that I think they said they sampled both the earlier and later ones, and they sampled for different mental predictors or whatever that were involved in the closer gestational ones, but they didn't find like a key difference between these groups of people, I think they said.
Minions have spawned.
The wolf, the fox, both necessary, both unrelenting. You claim to desire peace, but it seems our definition may differ.
Okay.
Inaction invites regret. Willing to risk your life for this endeavor?
What the fuck is this? How is this linked? This is 8 months old? Let me use the restroom one second.
Hey, Ruby. Hi. How are you guys doing? We just wanted to check it out. Looks like a nice place. Yeah? Don't come near me. Whoa!
Learn quickly and constantly.
Get off! Let go! Let go of me!
Only trust those who earned it. Now that I've returned to my family, what challenges await us? Compassion does not beget weakness. proves I'm unfit to lead. Let them waste their time. To blend in, we shed electricity. The golden rule. Just a moment. I require additional resources. See through deception. I should have been there for you. King is the only constant.
An enemy has been slain.
I was born to lead. I will show them why. What else is hidden beneath my vision?
Eyes of heaven.
Steady is stagnant. True leader is secure in management.
Enemy double kill. Enemy triple kill. Turret plating will fall soon.
So I've returned. Yet another mystery. The wolf, the fox, both necessary, both unrelenting. Mind your step. Inaction invites regret. know that now. Leadership requires one to learn quickly and promptly.
An enemy has been slain.
Only trust those who've earned it.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Now that I've returned to my family, what challenges await me?
I don't have all day. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Compassion does not beget weakness.
An ally has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed.
Things were so much simpler on the council. Any desire can be exploited. I choose to forgive whenever possible. Any worthwhile venture involves risk. Constant use of my magic is beginning to take a toll. A brief break should do the trick.
Your turret has been destroyed. No say without wit.
The arcane is at my fingertips. The Black Rose will answer for all that they've done. The best lies are wrapped in truth.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An ally has been slain.
Revenge is short-sighted. I cannot submit to its temptations. shed authenticity.
An ally has been slain.
See through deception.
been slain.
I really trust those who've earned it. Feel my light.
An ally has been slain. Double kill.
They never listen.
Shut down.
Baby.
What do these boys need?
Now that
Odin
I've
needs to
returned
poop.
my family,
He refused to go this
challenges
morning.
await us. Unnecessary maneuver.
An ally has been slain.
Compassion does not beget weakness. I'm no longer bound by her standards. Catch this!
No sin without witness.
Things were so much simpler on the council.
An ally has been slain.
I choose to forgive whenever possible.
I defend myself.
Any worthwhile venture involves risk.
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Enemy double kill.
I think I need a Zonia's. Well, maybe I just go Rabadons, I don't know. Yeah, Zonia
An
sounds good.
ally has been slain.
Adapt to their behavior. No more mistakes.
Enemy rampage.
The arcane is at my fingertips. synopsis, shaped by Piltover, printed with many questions, but their whispers do not define me. The best lies are wrapped in truth.
Sight unseen.
To think these gifts were hidden within me, the lives I could have saved.
Shut down.
Another malefactor.
Your turret has been destroyed. An enemy has been slain.
War should only be a last resort.
Guess I'm walking bot lane.
Assess the surroundings. Anticipate any outcome. To blend in, we shed authenticity. Mind your step. Spare the pleasant.
An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret. An ally has been slain. Killing spree.
Magical intervention.
Fuck.
Shut down. An enemy has been slain. Rampage.
Bring me back something.
Focus. Do not lose your composure.
What's one more grain?
Dominating. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed an inhibitor. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed an inhibitor. Your team has destroyed a turret. Killing spree. Your team has destroyed a turret. Triple kill. Ace. Victory.
Not a bad game. I guess I didn't realize the split didn't end. Give me 1 minute, chat.
She's coming. She's going to attack us again. I'm getting in the car.
This clip is 8 minutes old, not months. Oh wait, did I read it wrong? 8 minutes. Oh shit, wait. Oh fuck, wait, was this worth watching? What happened? Sorry, now we're rewatching it.
Hey, Ruby. Hi. How are you guys doing?
What the fuck are you doing?
We just wanted to check it out. Looks like a nice place.
Oh, really?
Yeah? Don't come near me. Whoa! Whoa!
Aaron,
Stop.
Sorry.
Aaron, get off of her.
Woman who threatened to sue Destiny.
What up, G?
What up?
What up?
We're gonna head out of the store in a couple minutes here if you want to meet. We're in Woodbury right now, but we could either do Woodbury or Egan.
Egan. Yeah. I would say plan for me not to go. Sorry, Erin just asked me to go to Trader Joe's with her after I threw my laundry in.
Okay.
So, all good though. Sorry, man. I called and then as soon as I walked downstairs, Erin wanted to go do that. So,
All good.
all right, my brother.
Alright, I will shout at you. Yeah, let me know if you get any calls.
Will do, brother.
Alright, see you, man.
See you, buddy. All right, love. I'm gonna come with you. Yeah. What? No, don't be sorry. They invited me to go. I decided to go do the thing with you. As long as they don't have to get dressed. As long as they don't have to get dressed. Hell yeah.
For context, this is
I am. I'm playing this game and then I gotta poop.
Which one is Grace?
Oh, you're not so tough.
Stop grabbing it. Hey, stop.
Grace is recording.
Get off! Let go of me!
Oh, Thorpe Tube.
Let go of me!
I gotta pee. Shit, do I have time?
I'm calling the cops!
Try.
I'm calling the cops!
Why was I rushing? I had all the time in the world. I didn't have to dribble that much down my pants. Well, lesson learned.
Battle song and bloodshed, fellow Noxians. Welcome to the arena!
We'll hear arguments.
Stop.
The best game.
Stop. And stop. Okay. Jesus. What is this?
To those people every day, and there were people that genuinely thought, they genuinely believed that Donald Trump was actually excising the violent criminals. And the only reason why people are led to believe this lie, aside from the positive misinformation that comes from independent outlets on the right and also Fox News as well, is because there is no robust response from the Democratic Party that says, that's a fucking lie. That's a lie. Undocumented migrants in this country are responsible for a lower...
Pretty sure Democrats have been saying this over and 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 over again, but okay.
Rate of per capita crime that natural-born U.S. citizens are. If you pair that up with documented migrants, it's negligible. It is marginal, and they're hyper-focusing on it specifically because this is a vulnerable population that is easy to target and it's easy to ridicule, and there is not enough of a robust defense mechanism out there. And that's the reason why people end up believing this bullshit, and then they get shocked when it's actually implemented.
I've just got an 8.
Okay. Take a quick research there. What was her
Don't talk to me or my tiger spirit ever again.
review of her debate? How did she feel?
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Lila Rose Show. We're going live here because I had a lot of fun recently going on Jubilee Media, and doing one of their, I guess, episodes called Surrounded, where they have one person with one point of view surrounded by 25 people of another point of view, and I was a pro-life activist surrounded by 25 pro-abortion or pro-choice activists, depending on the terminology that you want to use. So I thought I'd do a little react here. I think I just ordered some coffee. It's going to be coming soon, and I'm going to drink my coffee and react to how this went. I really enjoyed the opportunity to do this because I have found over now 15 plus years of pro-life activism that it can be really hard to find people on the opposing side who support abortion who are willing to have discussions or debates. It can be really hard. In fact, Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion chain, has an official no debate policy. And I
Abortion chain.
know this because they have actually told media groups over the last decade when I've been on a show that they will not come on the show because I'm on the show, and they don't do debates or discussions with people who disagree. So that's literally Planned Parenthood's official policy, even though they're the biggest abortion chain and they also run this huge marketing and legislative push to get pro-abortion laws on the books, etc. That's their whole gig. They don't want there to be discussion or conversation. So all this to say, when Jubilee invited
They don't want there to be discussions or conversations. That's her statement about Planned Parenthood. When they just said they don't want to debate. Those are two very different positions, but okay.
on for this, I was extremely happy to do it because I think having conversations about the right to life of the baby, abortion, anything and everything related to this topic is so important, and I think it's so powerful when those conversations happen. So I'm really glad that I got to do this. Was it easy to do? Was it fun to do in the moment? No, I personally don't love going in there and having conflict with people, but I thought it was incredibly important because there's a million abortions a year. This is our leading human rights abuse of our day, and I think every single person who cares about life and children should be plugged in on this and caring about abortion and the fact that we have a million abortions a year and that it's legal through all 9 months in many states, including my home state of California. So anyways, I'm gonna do some live reacting here. Hey guys, for those joining right now, hey Catherine, thanks for joining. Thanks for the kind words. Hey Lucia, thanks for joining. So I will be doing a live react of the Jubilee Surrounded One Pro-Life Activist Yours truly versus 25 pro-choice activists. And a little more behind the scenes. So when I did this, the format, what it looks like, you walk into this big warehouse and it was really cold and there were all these, people sitting there. You don't really get to meet them before the debate, so it's kind of a surprise. They're surprised by who I am. I'm surprised by who they are. And then basically the time starts. I make a claim about what my position on abortion is, such as every unborn child has the right to life. And then the flag goes up when somebody is debating me and the other people don't like that they're debating me. The flag will go up. If there's enough flags, the person gets kicked off the debate round. So I'll just play a little promo. This is the promo clip they use. You get a feel for what this looks like, and then we'll go through some of the clips and do a react here. So let me know if you guys can hear the sound here. So today we will be cheering you on, saying, "Go get him, Mom, you got this."
I can promise you that would not be the case with
the Lila Rose. Okay, one other quick thing I'll let you guys know for those that are watching the full video of activists. All right, there it is. So let's start with, one other quick thing I'll let you guys know for those that are watching the full video right now. And thanks again. Hello in the chat. Hey, Logan. Hey, Ann. Thanks for joining. Hey, John Henry. Thanks again for joining. So just a quick note, what you guys see on the Jubilee YouTube channel of this is obviously what we filmed. There was stuff that is not in there that we filmed. So we filmed another 10, 15 minutes that they didn't include. I'll talk about that later and why that might be. But also, they moved the order around. And I think this is really key to just share on the outset because when you start watching that Jubilee video, it's like we're right in the middle of it going back and forth. But that was after an hour or so of the debating. I think maybe half an hour, I don't remember exactly. Meaning they didn't start it in the sequencing. And we knew this going in. They were going to mix up the edit so that some things that happened later would happen earlier and vice versa. So just flagging that. But I'm going to start with the exchange that I had with a woman named Jax, which is what they use in the promo video. And we'll take a look at that.
Wow.
So this was the claim every unborn. Hello again.
Hello. So my first question is, are you familiar with an anime or manga series called Monster?
I'm not. Tell me about it.
In Monster, essentially you have a doctor, and this doctor has a choice. He has a choice to decide between either saving this young boy's life or saving the life of, I believe it's the sponsor of the hospital. He chooses to save the young boy's life. This young boy grows up to be the titular monster, worse than Hitler. Does that child have a right to life?
Yes, every child has a right to life.
Even if they turn out to be the most monstrous thing you could possibly produce. Even if their life means the life ending of everyone here. Does their life still hold?
I believe monsters are not born, they're made. So just because a child might eventually do something when they grow up and become an adult doesn't mean we have a right to kill them before that. I don't know what went on in their childhood.
That's like the worst argument, but okay.
The choices that they made, but at the end of the day, everyone has the right to life, especially a child. They're innocent.
Let's say this child grows up and their life is miserable to the point of where they would want to end their life. And that's going to obviously leave some kind of ricochet effect. Everybody's going to be desperately devastated by that. Would you say that the parent who believes that is where their child's life is going does that child still deserve the right to life?
Are you saying that if a child is being abused, then we should be in support of killing that child?
Then let me be more specific. What would you say to me as someone who is a third generation suicide
Sorry, guys, I
survivor?
want to do a quick interject here, which is so pause it. I want to hear what she has to say. But this is such a common pro-choice argument, pro-abortion argument, which is that the baby's going to live a terrible life, so it's better off to be aborted. And we hear this all the time. I mean, I've heard this argument thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and this argument completely dies in the face of that person who was the foster care kid, was the adoptee, you know, had a disability, had a tough life at some point in their childhood, and went on to overcome their circumstances. And you know, that doesn't follow that. Okay, if you have a hard life, then therefore you don't have the right to live, regardless. But the point here is there's something called the power of the human spirit, resiliency, hope, and I think that is what we should be fighting for. In the end, we should be fighting for people's right to live so that they can overcome adversity, so that they can go on to overcome whatever difficult challenges they faced in their childhood or in their life. And that's, I think, such a positive view of humanity and human dignity. And this other view, which is that if you have a hard life, you should die or be killed, is so dark. Not only does it violate, I think, human rights, of course, but it's so dark, it's so hopeless. So anyways, but I think this is really personal for Jackson. She's going to share that in a moment, so we'll keep watching.
My mother, my grandmother, and their lives were miserable.
I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so sorry that that's part of your history and that your mother, your grandmother endured that, and I'm so glad that you're here. I think your life is awesome, and I think every life is awesome.
Now, would you say the same if you knew that I was living in a domestic violence shelter where I consider taking my life frequently? Would you still say that I don't deserve to not only end that life, but especially somebody who did have an abortion, and somebody who had to make the decision to escape their abuser, their predator, their captors, who was trafficked and pimped? So would you still say that raising that child under those circumstances would have either made my life difficult, or would you still say that child has a right to life if I made the decision, I don't want to be tied to a predator for the rest of my life, I don't want to be tied to my captor for the rest of my life?
So if someone's dealing with horrible abuse, and I hope that didn't happen to you, but if you were dealing with it, I'm so sorry. That's absolutely horrible. You deserve much better. You deserve to be taken out of that, rescued from that, and given a better life. And that would be my hope for every person, and what I'd want to work towards for every person, as opposed to saying death is the answer, or suicide is the answer, or abortion is the answer. I think choosing life is always better.
Now, what would you say if I were to say,
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So that, I think, was our first exchange, and then I think we had another one. Was that true? With Jax? Where she talked about, so maybe pull up the other one. So some of the guests could come up twice and not just the first time. They might get voted out the first time, and then they could try to come up again. And if they make it to the chair first, then they get their opportunity to be, you know, do the debate or whatever. So that was my first conversation with Jax, which was fairly civil.
Just microbite and saying life into fertilization bullets the whole time into G. Well, that's where I'm going to come down on the legal and ethical thing. There's a lot of weird things. That's one of the things I'm trying to do more. You'll see it a lot in my Tom interview for sure. I'm trying to get people to bite more bullets, and I'll force them to bite more bullets. But there's a lot of weird stuff, I think, that we can get on the legal end. And I think I even tried to make it last time I talked to her, that I don't believe a lot of people will own. So, like, for instance, we should be registering persons at the moment of conception. So you should have, like, a legal name, you should have maybe a social security number, something should be assigned to you at the moment of conception, number one. Number two, every single moment of conception positive pregnancy test that, like, turns out like a newly identified baby, those people all need to be followed to the end of their life, like you would a normal person. Meaning, if you find out that, oh, I have a positive pregnancy test at, 1 month or 1.5 months or whatever, maybe like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, if you have a miscarriage or something, there needs to be a criminal investigation for every single one of those miscarries. There would never in a million years be a 2-month-old child that dies absent any kind of criminal investigation. Even if it's like a road, like even with a lot of footage, maybe you can find out, but like you would absolutely have to look into these things, right? So, yeah. There's also weird arguments, I think, that you get into in that certain people, I believe, morally, would be disallowed from having children. If you have certain types of defects that give you, or genetic whatever things or biological predispositions that give you like a high rate of miscarriage, we can figure out what we think that rate is. Over 50% isn't easy. You're banned from having kids. You should be sterilized. Maybe even over 10%, right? Every time you try to conceive, there's a 10% chance you're murdering a child. These people would all probably have to be forcibly sterilized. It's because it's just no way we're going to murder that many children. Anybody involved with an abortion would be charged with murder or conspiracy to commit murder or assisted murder or whatever, with aggravating or mitigating factors depending on how that works out. Like, all of these things would necessarily have to follow your ethical statement that, all of these would have to follow the ontological statement that babies and fetuses and persons are the same thing, and then and then from there your ethical statements of, we ought to protect all human life the same. I imagine you would, right? Well, your legal arguments here, like, you can't treat some murders differently, And I don't think that anybody would bite the bullet on all of these things. And I think it immediately puts on notice how ridiculous the argument is. I think there's also, on the peripheral, a bunch of other things that you would have to mandate as well. So, for instance, like, kidney transplants would be mandatory if your children are suffering in some way. Blood transfusions would be mandatory if your children are suffering in some way. Like, all of these things, I think, would be mandated from the parent. If we're going to say that, like, your body absolutely is allowed to be legally obligated to keeping a child alive, I think all of that should logically follow too. But we'll get into that later. This is going to come down to like the people at the bottom of the ethics of the section. We're not even at that part yet. I'm not building any markets right now. I'm just listening to her.
Oh, that was my second. I'm sorry. The first conversation with Jax, I think, was more, at least the way that they edited it, they put this, the one that you just saw, they put that first, right? In the edit, or no? Okay, so I think this is in the edit, the second interaction. Let's put on the first interaction with Jax, and you'll see more kind of her argument. But what I'm just going to say here is I think what I saw a lot in the Jubilee debate from multiple of the women that I was debating is that a lot of them had what I believe is trauma from past abortions, and they shared that in the debate. They actually would talk about the abortions that they had, and they would get really, really upset, angry, anxious in the debate because they were talking about their abortion. So one of my claims in the debate was that abortion leaves women traumatized, that it's actually traumatic for women. And a lot of people in the debate said, no, not at all, women are totally fine afterwards. And I did think it was very, heartbreaking and powerful that even the women who got up to debate that claim that abortion is traumatic would get extremely upset, claiming that their abortion did not make them upset ultimately. So let's finish watching the Jax exchange here, the second Jax exchange. Hi, what's your name?
Jax Prince. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, based off, you've given incredible points. Genuinely, truly, I'm learning quite a bit.
Thank you.
So, for the people that you say have the abortion young, how old do I look, out of curiosity?
I'm never supposed to answer that, right?
No, go ahead.
Will you tell me if you'll do me if I do you?
Yeah.
Okay. You are...
I appreciate that. At about 10 more years. So,
okay.
by your
awesome.
thank you.
You look amazing.
By your logic, I should be in that age range of people who abort, let's say, who should be feeling the regret and everything. If I carried the term, I would be labeled a drug-addicted black mother, and if I kept the baby, I would have been labeled a incompetent single mother. So my question for you is, what is your perception of how I should feel about my abortion?
So a couple things. First of all, sometimes the regret happens later in life. It's not within even 5 or 10 years. The trauma they feel might come out later when they have their own other children or grandchildren. So every woman is going to be
Is
different.
she going to pick the worst debaters every time?
I mean,
is that what she's? That's not what she's doing,
that's what you've overcome in your life. I think that's incredible, and you should be proud of overcoming so many tough things in your life. It does break my heart that if you're sharing you had an abortion, that there could be a child, I don't know, would they be 10 years old today, who would be cheering you on.
Wait, is she not going to do any of the men that came up to debate? No shot, right?
Go get him, Mom. You got this.
I can promise you that would not be the case because I can almost promise you that would not be the case because I say again, I'm in a domestic violence shelter. I've got a dog I can barely take care of. You're expecting me to sit here and let you tell me how I'm supposed to feel. You're trying to scare me.
I'm not telling you how to feel.
Yes, you are. Yes,
I'm not telling you
with your statistics.
But I am telling you that your
statistics and your information. With your statistics and your information. You are
and I wish someone had been helping you more.
Listen, but you weren't going to help. Everybody always likes to say, oh, keep the baby, give it up for adoption. I know what our foster system is like.
But when you
can't tell me I would have a child cheering me on.
When you place a child for adoption,
hold on, you don't get to speak for my child. You don't get to speak for my child.
Good one.
Let's start right there. You don't get to speak for my child. Like, oh, mommy would be cheering you on, everything like that. You don't fucking know that. You don't know that at all. You don't know what my child is. I may not even have my child because I was so unfit at the time. Drug addiction, sex work, everything like that. Yes, I'm a proud pro-ho. That is exactly what I do. But you're telling me how my child would feel. And what gives you the right? What gives you the right? What gives you the right?
I would love to respond to you. I think, yes, your child had a right to life. And I would say that I wish there were more people helping you at the time. It sounds like you were at a really rough time in your life. And I think that you mattered, that baby mattered.
Are there any guys there? Yeah, I would argue the two, sexist, the two best debaters that came up to confront her were both men. One was definitely DGGer. And it looks like she hasn't included any of their arguments in here at all. A good one.
More help. That's what I would say.
That's what you would say. But you're saying my child is cheering me on.
I would hope that.
You live in a past and you said you would hope.
I would hope
You would hope. So all of this is going off of hope.
So, I mean, even watching this makes me really sad. I don't know about you guys. I'll take a look at the chat, guys. Sorry to be a Debbie down here, but it is sad. It's heartbreaking what Jax went through and that she chose abortion and that she's like doubling down here. And you can just see the pain even in the conversation that I'm having with her. So, my heart really goes out to Jax. She tells me, how should I feel? She asked me to tell her how she should feel. I kind of don't take the bait and I say, well, I would hope that this would be happening if you hadn't had the abortion, because she's basically saying if I hadn't had the abortion. And then she says, don't tell me, how can you tell me what to feel? How can you tell me what to feel? So, can't really win. But again, that's because it's so deeply emotional. It's clearly so deeply painful for her. And I understand why. This is the whole point of my claim in that segment. My claim was that abortion is traumatic to women, and my whole point there was to show how painful abortion is to women, because it's not just like going to the dentist. Abortion is not just like, hanging out and getting some, taking an Advil, or, it's not like getting your appendix out. Abortion is ending the life of a baby, and that has lifelong consequences. So anyway, my heart goes out to Jax, but I'm, again, grateful that people showed up to have the discussion, even if they got so highly emotional, because I think even that has power, and there's fruitfulness that can happen when we actually talk about this stuff. I mentioned the Medicaid study.
I feel like this women feel bad after argument doesn't really support her position, does it? The solution would be giving women more information and supporting a decision. No. And we know this now that we've read some of the researchers that apparently she's heavily influenced by, because they have this weird theory that doesn't seem to be supported in the literature at all, that women have an inbuilt attachment to the fetus at the moment of conception, and that any type of abortion that a woman receives is necessarily going to induce some sort of psychologically traumatic response from her because of the loss of the pregnancy. So that's what she's rolling with. When she keeps bringing up trauma here, the theory that she's rolling with that seems to be not supported by the current literature. With a little bit of research we've read, and then the APA's position doesn't seem to agree with this, is that there's some inbuilt trauma to abortion.
A bunch of times about how women in California who are on Medicaid, so low-income women using state services or healthcare, that the ones that had abortions were 150% more likely to commit suicide than the ones that gave birth and carried term. This stuff. I mentioned the Medicaid study a bunch of times about how women in California who are on Medicaid, so low-income women using state services or healthcare, that the ones that had abortions were 150% more likely to commit suicide than the ones that gave birth and carried term.
So she's citing, now we know, she's citing that study, and she's citing one column of that study, but she's ignoring other parts of it, and that study is dog shit because of the research there, right? So she's citing that 150% more likely to commit suicide, but what she's not citing is that the people that were the least likely to die were the ones that had an abortion early on and then had a delivery later on. I don't know, I doubt she has a counter for that. This was 9 months ago, I don't know if anybody's confronted her on that specific point. I'm 100% positive she's never read that study cover to cover. But
Term. So even according to California research and data, it shows that women who have abortions are more likely.
I also love, you can see the dishonesty here, the bad faith. She keeps saying
than the ones that gave birth and carried term. So even according to California research and data, it shows that women who have abortions.
This is not California research. That's a lie. This is research done by a fake PhD from an unaccredited university electrical engineer guy who is part of an anti-abortion advocacy group. Now, he got the data from California. This is the study that she's referencing. But this is not California research. This is just data pulled from the Medi-Cal program in California. Right? But she never says that. She didn't do that in Jubilee either. She makes it sound like there's some official state-sponsored study. It's not.
Are more likely to have mental troubles afterwards and even become suicidal. So anyways, I hope for those listening and watching, and hey Lucia, for folks in the chat, hey Diana, let's pray for people who end up watching those people debate. Let's pray for the people in it, pray for each other. And again, there's a lot of trauma that I think people experience, and it's because abortion is a life. This is not just some medical procedure. This is a human being. This is an entire person with a whole life in front of them. And every abortion, when it takes the life of that human being, it destroys a whole lifetime of possibilities. For love, of opportunities, for belonging, for family, it's all destroyed. So anyways, it's very, very heartbreaking there. I'm just gonna take a look at the chat here. John Henry says, your 100K subscriber podcast, you have time to read on. Thanks for being an OG.
She's sponsored by anti-abortion groups. Even worse, I'm pretty sure she runs an anti-abortion group. I haven't looked into it yet, but it's the Live Action is apparently her group, but she's like the head of a big anti-abortion org.
Really appreciate it. We're almost at 200,000 subs on the channel, so thank you everybody for watching and supporting the channel. Nicholas says, Lila, you should be slightly more aggressive in your rebuttals, in my opinion. I love your work. That sounds like you're an indirect doctor by saving unborn lives through persuading women. Yes, my goal is to persuade people. That is my job. I want to persuade people. And sometimes I get aggressive, and you'll see that if you watch the whole Jubilee debate. There are points where I do get aggressive. I kind of interject. I try to redirect, and then there are other times where I try to just lay low and really listen, because in the situation of the exchange with Dax, it's clear she's hurt. It's clear she's damaged by her own abortion. She's not at peace with the abortion that she had, and she was going through, she says, a terrible time in her life. And so I think it depends on the person and the circumstances, how intense and aggressive to get with the line of questioning or with the answers or with the debate. So that's just my view and how I usually run these debates. And you'll see in the Jubilee debate, there are times where I get aggressive, where I interject, where I make strong statements, and then there's other times where I think I'm a little more, my tone is a little more low-key, because the person is coming in with this emotional intensity, and if I were to match that emotional intensity, I think it would destroy the opportunity for an actual conversation, because we would just be yelling at each other basically. So anyways, let's go to the next one. Let's watch another one. Okay, so I think this next one, what are we pulling up next here? Okay, this is a clip of a girl named Julia. And what was the claim of this one? This one was... Okay, so this was one of my, I think it was my third or fourth claim in the Jubilee debate. Abortion is unconstitutional and should be banned. And then this is a conversation I had with a girl named Julia.
Yes. Okay, so you had mentioned that regardless if it is illegal or not, women are still going to get abortions. So how do you justify the fact that
the abortion rate goes down dramatically?
They're not going to doing illegally because there's going to be repercussions. So
but we can prove that live births go up in states where abortion goes up.
I can't believe she's just rewatching the shittiest arguments. Well, at least we know then that she's not prepared to counter the other ones, because she would probably address those if she was better prepared for them, huh?
The fact that some states made abortion illegal. So we know more women are having babies. So even with unreported illegal abortions, live births are still going up.
But do you understand that people when they know that abortion is illegal, or that women have more difficulty receiving abortions, they're going to carry this term because they're out of fear of abortion. Why not? Why are you taking too much want to be fun places like Planned Parenthood, places that actively help women have safe abortions, and then it further prevents miscarriages in the future?
I'm sorry to pause this. Micah in the chat, he says, bye, I'm too pro-choice to be here. Come back, Micah. I'm happy, like, seriously, I want to hear, like, in the chat, if you're pro-choice, I want to hear from you guys. Like, that's the whole reason I did this whole Jubilee thing. So anyway, don't leave, Micah, but we'll keep listening to this exchange. Some of the work I'm trying to do now is work against this narrative that gives women so much fear about children. We are told to fear pregnancy, we're told to fear birth, we're told to fear being mothers, and our society also tells us to celebrate abortion. And I think that's a very anti-woman view. And I think we should flip the script on that and say, actually, our superpower as women is the ability to bring life into the world.
Our superpower of women is the power to choose. That's feminism. The power of choice. If you want to be a mother, you get to be a mother. That's feminism. If you want to stay home, you want to go. When you're pregnant, you're already a mother. I'm okay with scientific reality. If you, as a human, like a child, son or daughter, that has rights too. If you force women to have pregnancies and force women to basically choose their entire lives, you're not forcing them to do that. Well, I think we should force women to do that. Okay, great. Have you met a man? Do you think they're going to do that? They're not going to do that. They're really not. What you're getting at, which I think is a really good point, is that we have this sort of approach in our society when it comes to sex and relationships, where men and women, and a lot of times I don't want to just see men do this, women do this too, where we treat this very maybe casually, all about looking at sex and relationships as something really beautiful, something you commit to for life, you sacrifice for the other person, you love that other person, and then if you conceive a baby, you love that baby, you fight for that baby. I think that is the view we should be moving towards as a society, instead of sex being casual. If you get pregnant, just have an abortion. The man abandons the woman.
It's a very heterosexual view because we're not including queer sex in this narrative, in which sometimes sex is
Well, if the queer sex brings life into the world, either way, I think at the end of the day, we're still talking about human life.
That's great, but often, but in this regards, in this argument, we're not giving people sexual education. If you go in Planned Parenthood, they not only give abortions, they also provide STD testing. They allow men into Planned Parenthood, people without health insurance. We're talking about healthcare, right?
Yeah, so much to unpack here, and like also I want to pay attention to the chat. Just a couple thoughts on this one. It's so interesting because like this is I think one of the biggest disagreements between a pro-life position and a pro-abortion position. It's like, what is a woman's superpower? And I said the superpower of a woman is that she has the ability to bring life into the world. Men can't do that. Only women can. That is the difference, the sexual difference between men and women. Women can be mothers, men can be fathers, and not vice versa. So she says, Julia, in response, she says, no, the superpower of a woman is the power to choose whether or not to bring life into the world. And to some degree, she's true. She's correct in the sense that yes, you can choose as a woman to get married, you can choose to have sex and get pregnant, you can choose to not, you can choose to abstain and become a nun or just not have sex at all and be an abstinent person and not do that, not bring life into the world. But when you have sex and you conceive a baby, you brought life into the world. There's already life into the world, and that is a
Can you hear me talk? Can you hear me talk? Oh yeah, you can hear me. Oh yeah, you can hear me.
The rivers will run red.
superpower. And then the question is, and the pro-abortion argument is, well, I have the right now to kill this life. And the pro-position is, no,
Everybody's
you don't have the
like
right to kill your child.
tanky
Just because
time
you don't want them in the world anymore, you don't have the right to take them out of the world. So that is the key difference here. And, in all the debate during this Jubilee discussion, I don't think that difference was ever really, this format is tough, right? Because literally people get voted off, you only have a few minutes with people, you have to have this discussion. So I think that was not as fully fleshed out as maybe it could have been in a longer form
every
debate.
team is like the
I will
worst
be doing a
possible
debate
team for
at Georgetown
Jubilee.
University next week with a pro-abortion professor over like an hour and a half. So I do the long form debates, but this one, again, hard to go very deep in such a short time frame. It was kind of crazy how she said the thing about queer sex. What about queer sex? It's like, well, queer sex. She's like, you're talking about heterosexual.
Abortion
I said, well, regardless, we're talking about bringing life into the world. So the sex that brings life into the world, that's sex between a man and a woman. That is sex that can bring life into the world. So if you want to dismiss that as just heterosexual sex, you can do what you would like. But the reality is that is the sex that can bring life into the world. That's why we're talking about this. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick look at the chat here. The chat's going. All right, Micah. I mentioned Micah earlier. Micah says, "Is pro-life mostly a Christian thing?" No, it's not. You do not have to be Christian to be pro-life. In fact, I know a ton of pro-lifers who are atheists. Pro-lifers develop skin eventually. Well, sure. What is it? What is it? Come on. What is it?
It's a massive cell.
But what is it? It's a human embryo, right?
Well, yes,
That's developing
but it is a clump of
But
cells.
we only said you're a clump of cells. You're trying to use it like, well, you're a clump of cells, you can be aborted, you can miss it, doesn't matter, who cares? You're not a clump of cells. It's not dehumanizing. You're being a little dehumanizing.
Yes, I am being dehumanizing.
Why? Because we are clump of cells, right? You acknowledge that. So we're saying dehumanize us, right? Why wouldn't you dehumanize us?
Because until you are actually outside of my body, there are no rights.
It's like
because if there were my
it's short
parents,
circuit. But I the thing is, it's so crazy. It's like she's admitting. I mean, it took me a while to get her to admit it, even Socrates and I, but we got her there. She admitted that yes, it is a human embryo. It's a whole human. It's not just like skin cells. It's a clump of cells. Yes, but it's also an embryo. She admits, well, yeah, I'm a clump of cells. You're a clump of cells. So like, and then she admitted, I am dehumanizing us. Like she literally said she was dehumanizing us. And then she goes just like again.
Very interesting collection of events with Lula Rose and TP, Planned Parenthood in 2011. Right now. Timeline events. January 2011. What is this? Is this schizo posting? 8 Planned Parenthood clinics, similar situations involving extreme encounters with clients within a 5-day span. Planned Parenthood sends letter to Eric Holder. Investigate potential sex trafficking based on the visits in early January. live action videos posted to YouTube and on live action website. New Jersey Senator Michael Doherty called on state and federal law enforcement to investigate an undercover video showing a Planned Parenthood manager advising a pimp to hide his underage sex slaves from the law. Planned Parenthood released a statement which indicated it required the New Jersey County manager who appeared in the video of Planned Parenthood send a statement that the full video showed its employee behaving in a repugnant manner that is inconsistent with our standards of care. The organization also claims live action videos are clearly edited. YouTube threatens to remove live action videos citing privacy violations. Following the nationwide attention for the video footage showing a Planned Parenthood staff member from a New Jersey clinic helping alleged sex traffickers cover up their crimes, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie vetoed a bill funding Planned Parenthood. Live action president Lisa Rose goes on a media blitz. Rose replied to Planned Parenthood's letter to Eric Holder. Rose claims that women do not visit an Indiana clinic mentioned in the letter and requests an immediate and thorough investigation of Planned Parenthood Indiana as well as all the other Planned Parenthood clinics. Republican Representative Mike Pence introduces Pence Amendment to House Resolution 1 to bar federal funding. Planned Parenthood argues it's not an issue of abortion, rather than it pays for abortions. Jerry Nadler calls Pence Amendment a bill of attainder, saying it was unconstitutional because the legislation targeted a specific group. Federal government votes 240 to 185 bars Planned Parenthood funding, states that there's a congressional attack of women and women's health care. Planned Parenthood launches Stand with Planned Parenthood campaign and the Truth Tour bus campaign to avoid a government shutdown on March 18th. House Appropriations Committee Chairman Paul Rogers introduced a continuing resolution to fund federal government through April 8th. News site Salon.com calls to shut down the Planned Parenthood government shutdown. Here's government shutdown looms. 120% is a $300 million cut for Planned Parenthood. Media begins toting the issue as an ideological one. Obama says what we can't be doing is using last year's budget process to have arguments about abortion, to have arguments about the Environmental Protection Agency, to try to use this budget negotiation as a vehicle for every ideological or political difference between the two parties. That's what the legislature is for, to have those arguments, but not stuff it all into one budget bill. President Obama says he will not sign a budget agreement to keep the government running that cuts funding for Planned Parenthood and the EPA. Huffington Post runs headline, government shutdown threatened by Republicans over Planned Parenthood. The White House announces government reaches budget agreement overnight, which includes federal funding of Planned Parenthood. How do I read this? Just get to the part where she claims to be a 13-year-old got raped by her 27-year-old BF. Wait, stop. And see that? Wait, hold on. First of all, how old is she? Ela Rose was oh, she's my age. 36. 37, sorry. So in 2008, she would have been 20? She was born in 88. Okay. President Lila Rose. Okay, 2008 live action launched the Mona Lisa Project, which began as a hidden camera investigation at Planned Parenthood clinics because it believed the organization was violating statutory rape laws. Like raping people, or just like having abortions for young women was like counted as that?
Care to make a donation?
According to the live-action website, the investigation also may reveal the inside story in the abortion industry and abuses. President Lila Rose poses a 13-year-old wounded and impregnated by a 27-year-old boyfriend. The clinic employee instructed her to claim the boyfriend was 14 years old to avoid mandatory statutory rape reporting laws. Other campaigns against Planned Parenthood include the Rosa Acuna Project, which focused on obtaining video footage of Planned Parenthood staff providing false medical and scientific information to patients. Is there no exemption for medical people? Oh shit, that's actually such a tough one. Should medical personnel have an obligation to report statutory rape if they find out about it? On one end, you would say, well, obviously if you come across this, they obviously should. But then on the other end, now if you're a minor who has some kind of sexual relationship with an older person, why would you ever go to any medical health person? You would just call cops. Damn, that's a really tough one. I don't know what the actual answer is for that. Is there a statutory rape obligation to report? Should they have an obligation to report any crime if the person seeking health care that causes it? The two I can kind of get on board with. themselves or somebody else. Like if somebody comes in and they're like, just so you know, like I'm feeling like horrible, I'm gonna kill my family, and they leave, you have an obligation to report that. Or if they say they're gonna kill themselves, if they seem like they're an imminent, they have the means and they desire to imminently kill themselves. I think medical care providers are mandatory reporters of everything.
Complete. You are. Preparation phase.
I feel like the last thing you want is someone in a relationship with an older man being too afraid to get an abortion because their significant other will go to jail. Yeah, that seems like the worst thing. Especially because this would be like your biggest at-risk group of people. Like imagine your 13 to 16-year-olds that get impregnated by their 30-year-old whatever boyfriend, and they're like, or you can even say closer in age, like 22-year-old boyfriend, and like, well, I love him, but I really want to get an abortion. And now they're like, yeah, I don't know.
Spoils of war. Now yours to wield.
The clinic employee instructed her to claim the boyfriend was 14 years old, avoid mandatory severe reporting laws, other campaigns continue. Is there anything? What the follow-up to that is? Do I want to go down?
Trickling progress. Stop!
Planned Parenthood videos with output analysis funds. Planned Parenthood on Thursday gave congressional leaders in a committee that is investigating allegations of criminality. This is 2015 though. Was this really about the Hulu Rose stuff, or was this like the Project Veritas stuff?
Ring closing. Keep to safety. Team Krug won the round.
I feel like this was the Project Veritas stuff.
Selection stage.
Who? Lila? Lila? What did I say?
Sharpening the
Is
sense.
it pronounced Lila or Lila? It's Lila. Or am I saying Lila? Lila. Lila Rose? Lila Rose? I don't know, what the fuck? Whatever. Who? Lila. It's Lila. Like a lilac. Nah, I feel retarded. Fuck you. Okay.
Let's cool. Round set. Your team lost.
Live Action is an anti-abortion extremist organization. Jesus. In 2006, Rose and O'Keefe began undercover investigations into what she calls the abortion industry. In 2006, she would have been 17, 18 maybe?
The Empire giveth.
Jesus. Videos shown were heavily edited to portray Planned Parenthood employees as disobeying medical laws. Despite that not being the case, Rose was forced to take down the videos following the cease and desist of Planned Parenthood. Senior live action legal films of pregnancy 3. Here are the videos. Bro, dude, I'm gonna get this. You know what?
Man, I'm getting slaughtered.
Undercover investigation. 13 videos. Sex trafficking at Planned Parenthood. Wait, is this Lila? Pretending to be 13? Oh man, we got the music and everything. The video you're about to see was recorded undercover at a Planned Parenthood abortion.
Undercover investigation welcomed Planned Parenthood
Is this her?
in Richmond, Virginia. They told the staffer that they manage a prostitution ring of 14 and 15-year-old girls.
Wow.
Will Planned Parenthood comply with the law? Assure them that they are trusted partners with the sex industry?
We see people from, every walk of life. So, all the girls at Paper Moon and various places around town.
Coach
Holy shit, that was crazy. What? Did you hear that? Oh my god.
on how to circumvent parental consent laws for his underage sex slaves to get secret abortions.
Only requires over 18 if they're a minor is an abortion, but there's also ways like judicial bypasses we can get around that if you guys ever need it. Hi, this is the question. Okay.
Prostitute. I'm sorry. I didn't hear I'm retarded. Can you repeat what they said? Not trolling? Yeah, when she was in the office, she was talking to the lady and she was saying that there was a... Fuck, I need to go back. Wait. This one. I need like a plastic. Fuck. Okay, sorry. Back to the front. Thank God they subtitled for us. Oh, he's a black. Oh no.
The pit is ablaze! Care to make a donation?
So let's assume for sake of conversation that I'm autistic. Am I to understand that you could not hear either? Correct. I have no idea what was said.
Yeah, she was trying to get me to come in here for like a while. Yeah, I'm just, let me see. Yeah, so I didn't discuss it after that. But,
Dance on him, Vladdy.
We're involved in sex work.
Okay.
So, there's some other girls that are trying to manage that. They kind of need help too.
Right. So I'm trying to get everything so loud. Like, we gotta keep them safe. Yeah. And we see people from, every walk of life. So,
Let us give her a reminder of Noxian might.
So, that's good. No judgment, no sharing of information, nothing here.
That's what we were worried about, the health facility on the government, stuff like that. I'm looking at the part of it, some of the girls that are around like 14, 15, and some of them are like out of state, they don't know about the facility, they don't know how to get help. I don't even know how to do it. So like, when you're like...
Is that illegally here, or are they legally resident?
Some of them don't have like the residence yet, something like that. But like, how do you guys have team service and stuff like that?
We can give them the same information. The only thing that requires a legal guardian is an abortion.
Okay.
You can get birth control testing,
This is
anything
Mason.
without a parent. The only thing it requires over 18 if they're a minor.
How's it going, Kishan? Yes, sir. Oh, Torque Fitness, okay.
Let it all out.
Okay, so basically just like they won't have MFA until we figure that out, and we're gonna keep working on it this weekend.
Gather up your coinage, fighters. Let's add some gold to the pot.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we're planning to do, a Microsoft MFA migration anyway and consolidate it down.
Wonderful. Engage!
Okay. No, that sounds good. And they did already give us permission to do the Microsoft MFA work, but I can call them and let them know what's going on, and then just let them know we'll push forward on it faster than anticipated. Okay. Yeah. I'll give him a call quick, see if he wants to jump on, and I'll let you know what's going on. Alright, thanks, Kitchen. Yep, bye-bye.
Another step toward victory. Team Sentinel has
Okay, I gotta go. I got called.